Welcome back everyone to the F1 recap show where we're going to recap Japan, the most boring Grand Prix in history at Suzuka, and see whether my predictions came true. And I know one of them really did come true in a big way. But we're going to start with the most washed driver. I predicted Fernando Alonso was going to be the most washed driver at the Japanese Grand Prix because he hadn't finished in Melbourne, he hadn't finished in China. Now, is he the most washed driver? Well, he didn't finish in the points. Still no points for Fernando Alonso this season. It's now, he spent more time in Formula One now since he won. He is undoubtedly, unquestionably washed. I think there's no debate about it. But is he the most washed driver? Well, Gabriel Bortoleto hasn't scored a point. Jack Doohan hasn't scored a point and he binned it again. Liam Lawson, I think, has to be the most washed driver, finishing 17th in the RB. So he didn't finish in Melbourne. He finished out of the points in in China. He lost his seat. He goes into the RB that some people say is faster, but that might be up in the air now. And he finishes 17th and he's beaten by Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull. I think Liam Lawson is unquestionably the most washed driver right now. The bigger question is, are they going to keep Liam Lawson in Formula One? They kind of said he's damaged goods. That's why they dropped him from Red Bull. The psychological side wasn't there for Liam Lawson. Personally, I think that's really unfair. But they have dropped him now. And he's been absolutely beasted by Hadjar. And it's a bit unfair on Liam Lawson. He's jumping into a new car where his teammates been up to speed. So Fernando Alonso, not the most washed driver I'm going to say this week. I am going to say is actually Liam Lawson. Now, my driver on fire, my prediction for Japan was Yuki Tsunoda. I said Yuki Tsunoda's going to love it. He's going to jump into the Red Bull. He's going to show how fast it is. He's going to have a great time. The pressure's not going to get to him. He's going to score in the points. He's going to destroy Liam Lawson. That didn't happen. Yuki Tsunoda, well, most of it didn't happen. Yuki Tsunoda finished 12th, so he finished outside the points. Now, given that Max Verstappen won the Japanese Grand Prix, he's definitely not on fire. So Yuki Tsunoda was not the driver on fire for the Japanese Grand Prix. In fact, a lot of people saying maybe that Red Bull is super difficult to drive and maybe Yuki Tsunoda is going to struggle to get it in the points. The driver on fire for Japan, I think, has to be the driver that I predicted to come third, is Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli is absolutely, I think, tearing it up. Like, he has no regard for reputation, no regard for personal safety. He is driving an incredible season. He is now the youngest ever driver to lead a Formula One race, not a championship yet. You know, we've had drivers like Lewis Hamilton go straight into really big cars, Sebastian Vettel, Max Verstappen as well. None of them are the youngest driver to ever lead an F1 race. That is Kimi Antonelli. But maybe it has to be shared with Max Verstappen, because Max Verstappen winning the Japanese Grand Prix is not something basically anyone had predicted. And winning in style as well. Getting that pole position, essentially kind of a lights to flag victory, although there were some pit stop shenanigans. So between Max Verstappen and I think Kimi Antonelli, and that will be a great fight to see when they fight on track, because I think Kimi Antonelli is not going to care. He's just going to send it up the inside. My most washed team I had as Ferrari. Now this is going to be an interesting one here for most washed team, because a lot of teams have drivers doing okay and not doing okay. For example, Nico Hülkenberg has done okay for the Sauber, but Bortoleto really hasn't done okay. Alex Albon's been doing pretty good in the Williams. Carlos Sainz hasn't been doing pretty good in the Williams. So when it comes to the most washed team, honestly, on paper, it might be Alpine, because Pierre Gasly is not tearing it up and Jack Doohan is just struggling to drive the car, not even closing DRS going into turn one and binning it. So I think Alpine are actually going to be the most washed team from the Japanese Grand Prix. And the Ferrari, well, Ferrari are just kind of average. I mean, they're not setting the world on fire. It looks like Lewis Hamilton is definitely not this season going to become an 8-time World Drivers' Champion. We'll have to see what happens next season. But Ferrari are just kind of evaporating into the background. Obviously, they definitely were the most washed team in China. There can be no doubt about that, getting 2 disqualifications. But I'm going to go Alpine for Japan. My team on fire for Japan prediction was McLaren. I predicted it would be McLaren as a team on fire, that they would just sweep away with it. Even after qualifying, I said that the McLaren's just going to destroy Verstappen in the first few laps. It didn't happen, but they are the World Constructors Champions elect, so I don't know who else to put as the team on fire. Maybe it has to be, it can't really be Mercedes because both of their drivers finished behind both McLaren. So I guess I'm going to say with regret that McLaren are actually still the team on fire for Japan, but we're going to hold this space because if they keep shenanigans like that, keep boring racing, we want to sit in the grandstands and see exciting racing, see overtakes. Let Oscar have a go. Even if you don't think he's got the 8/10 pace, whatever, to pass, have a go. And it kind of makes me, wish for the days back in the day when the cars were unreliable and you could kind of push a driver in the lead and you could push them to kind of, go too far on their engine and stress things out too much and then they pay for it, or stress out the tyres too much. That doesn't seem to happen now. Now, my podium prediction for Japan was actually Piastri winning, Norris in second, and Verstappen Kimi Antonelli in third. I didn't predict Verstappen being on the podium. What actually happened is we had Verstappen in P1, then we had Norris, then we had Piastri. But this is where it starts to get a bit depressing because it was such a boring race, really, because McLaren didn't let the hands fly. They didn't let Piastri have a go at Verstappen. They just kind of kept them in order. They didn't do any funny undercuts. They didn't try a different strategy. They had a lot of margin to Leclerc in behind. They didn't use it. So I'm really disappointed in McLaren. But ultimately, they're still leading the Constructors' Championship. Lando's still in the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Oscar Piastri is still there or thereabouts. And are we going to see Max Verstappen now as the underdog? Are people going to be supporting Max Verstappen against the almighty McLaren, so kind of boring papaya platoon? We will see. So we're going to move on to the Bandit. This is the one I got correct. So I predicted that the Bandit was going to be Lance Stroll, because I said Lance Stroll's had a really good start to the season. Good race in Melbourne, good race in China, and he's going to go off the rails here. And arguably, the Japanese Grand Prix is most notable for Lance Stroll just being absolutely off the rails, like getting lapped. It was the closest we got to real excitement would have been Lance Stroll kind of holding people up. He was actually the only driver, if I remember, to be lapped in the Japanese Grand Prix, which is a unique kind of accolade there. He's lucky he's not coming in as most washed, we got to be honest. That's kind of, because he's had a good start to the season. But Lance Stroll was the Bandit, getting in the way, doing some mad strategy where he started on the softs and then he kind of binned off the strategy. At least he didn't retire. But in a way, it's kind of sad there were no retirements. Back in the day, a race like this would have had retirements, there would have been some dynamism, more pit stops as well. We're going to talk about that in my next video, which is going to be the predictions for Bahrain. So make sure you subscribe if you want to see more of this, and always let me know your thoughts in the comments so I can get back to you. I'll see you next time.